Have you ever been married? I have not. I know it is good and bad, but mostly confusing. Learn all you need to know about marriage from today's Garth Brown mystery. Garth is a cunning wizard detective with lots of sperm, but not too much. Buckle down and stir your pots. I'm Brian Longshanks and you are listening to The Garth Brown Mysteries. The Garth Brown Mysteries, from the standalone series, The Woman in Black, Mo 87 Root and 5. Chapter 1, They Are Dead. Garthy. Honey. Pass me the butter. Whispered Sardine softly. Anything for my little mermaid. Winked Garth passionately. Detective Garth Brown and Sardine had just gotten married and they were honeymooning on the Isles of Scilly. The young couple were very much in love, however their honeymoon was shadowed by the fact that Sardine's 7 brothers were also on the honeymoon. This was because Sardine's parents did not trust Garth but they hated him. "What shall we do today?" asked Sardine as she retrieved the butter from Garth's lips. "I have some loose ends to tie up first, then we can gallivander as much as possible," said Garth as he tiptoed out of the master bedroom. He went forth to the kitchen in utter exile. He hadn't been married a week, and he already knew that Sardine was not even a fairy or his mistress. He grabbed some supplies and put on his metal shoes and went out to find the local shops nearby. As he walked, he noticed a parlor without a roof or walls and decided to approach. He also noticed a large sign that said Fat Cow and Skinny Goose. "Hoi. Garth, here. Are you the fat cow on the sign?" The fat woman in front of him was very displeased with this greeting and said yes. Garth bowed to the woman. When he bent over he looked at her inflated toes. On the left middle toe, she had a note that read, "They are dead." Garth dove at the woman and grabbed the note. Jumping to his feet he grabbed the fat woman's arms and bent them around her neck and pinned her against the wall. "What is this note?" Garth yelled. "I am a detective and I have a duty to know." The woman started to giggle hysterically. Oddly similar to Satan, thought Garth. Maybe she was Satan? Or is she? Or is we? Knock it off. Garth knew to himself. "Answer my questions, please," said Garth. "The note says all that was meant to be, and thus it is on my toe to be read," replied the woman. Garth shot her with a paralyzing agent and took the note and left for the next shop. Garth stumbled and tumbled as he made his way down the streets. He knew the Isles of Scilly got scary at dark, so he did not want to be out past dark. Even though he was a wizard detective, he knew he wasn't invincible. Garth soon found himself approaching a large cobble street. At the end of the street stood 5 marble pillars. Garth knew this to be the local wizard detective shop. He made his way to the front entrance and entered. "I have a note that is very bi-curious," he shouted, but no one answered. No one was there except Garth and his spirit. He battled with his spirit for a moment and then continued on. As he trudged down the streets, pounding back tuppence down his gullet, it began to rain heavily. Suddenly, there was a woman all in black. Garth walked past her, trying to avoid making eye contact. "They are all dead," the woman said with a silky whisper. "Excuse me?" Garth said, trying desperately not to poop himself or seem anxious. "It's better now," the woman said as though Garth hadn't even been there. "Did I kill them? Or did someone?" Garth said while trying to wrestle with the facts. Garth bent down to straighten his shoes and when he looked up the woman was gone. "Oh wow," he said, "this is not cool." It was not getting dark. A dense mist had started to form and the moon shone dimly in the night sky. Garth knew he should be making his way back to his wife and his brother-in-law's honeymoon suite. However, he did not know the way. "Where is a map?" He asked his thoughts, but there was no response. He decided to go back the way he came and was home within 4 minutes. As he approached his home in the rain, he decided to attempt the sunshine dance which he had learned from the natives of Beach Island, but it didn't work. He soon remembered that it only works if you have teeth to whistle through. He approached the door, soaking wet and crying for his bed. "Hey, guys. Are you there?" Garth asked. They were not. Perhaps they've taken my wife for a movie. They had not. Perhaps they've gone to church. But no, again they had not. Have they gone to see Spencer's Fleeting Splendors? No sir. Had they been killed? They had. They were all dead. He saw 7 bodies and a little blood, but not too much blood. Garth now became very frantic. Oh, crap, oh my boogus. Chapter 2, They Were Dead. To be, or not to be? That is the question. To sleep and to dream, perchance to die or be killed. Garth thought to himself as he gazed upon the blood, although there wasn't all that much. There were 7 bodies, but where was Sardine? He began inspecting all the bodies, which were in surprisingly good condition considering the circumstances. He had to be certain his dear wench wasn't among them. As he inspected each body, he decided it would be best if he didn't do this in the pitch black. Garth went to the refrigerator and took out his box of matches. He struck the matches against his knee and then lit many candles around the room. "There, that's better," he said out loud. Just then Garth looked to his right and gasped. There, written on the wall in blood, was the phrase, "They are dead." Garth gasped again so loudly that a bit of saliva goozled down to his toes. He inspected the bodies for hours and hours, from top to bottom and inside and out. There was no Sardine. But he had to be sure. In order to make it less of a grueling task, he decided to make a game of it. He decided that every time a body oozed that he would take a drink and poke it with a stick. This went on for several more hours. Even once he was certain that his wife was not here, he continued this new game a few hours longer just for his own enjoyment. Finally, when the sun began to rise, he decided to go forth and hunt down the woman in black. Detective Garth Brown phoned his best friend Frizzy Longbottom in search of some assistance on his quest. Jubbo Jolly Toopy Bubbles Uzu 7309. Garth yelled as soon as Frizzy picked up the phone. Kippo Lippo Guzo. Frizzy hung up immediately. He had told Garth, no. Garth was shattered, but he was still persistent. If Frizzy did not want to help him, then he would have to help himself. Garth skipped and bobbed his head as he made his way back to the same location that he saw the woman in black the night before. If he was to solve a case on his honeymoon, then he must retrace his steps. When Garth arrived, he looked all round, but there was no one to be seen for miles. Just then a massive dump truck came zooming towards Garth. He tried to avoid it, but it was too quick and Garth was too slow. The vehicle crashed into Garth's lanky legs and he was sent into a tumble. Up, up, up he went. He pooped in the air as he tumbled and it flung out, spraying this way and that. Not that much poop though, just enough. Garth lost a pound or 2 of weight and continued to soar through the air. Crash! He sounded as he landed on the ground. This was not good for him. Then, there was silence. Garth hadn't known such peace before. He lay there in the quiet and his eyes faded into blackness. Chapter 3, Tiny Mike.
Hello there, I have not chosen you, but fate has chosen both of us. Please follow me, I am Tiny Mike.
Garth opened his eyes and saw before him a man who seemed tall for his size, but was 4 feet 2 inches tall and not all that much to look at. He was 64 pounds and had hairy arms. Where am I? Asked Garth.
I found you near this. You had poop all about you and you looked sick. I saved you.
Did I have poop everywhere?
Oh, you had poop all about you.
Oh no. Oh dang. You had poop all about me?
Number Garth. You had poop in and outside of you.
Oh no. Oh. I had poop all about me?
Yes you did Garth, it was you.
This went on for hours before Garth slid his hand down his chest and realized that he did in fact have poop all about him. Thanks for letting me know. My wife's 7 brothers are dead and I know not where to find my wife. Will you help me? Garth asked. Tiny Mike did not reply with words, but he nodded and the two of them began walking.
Where did you last see her?
Seesaw? Seesaw? What's that you say?
Yes, okay, yes.
Pardon?
Understand.
All right. I suppose we had best begin with finding that wretched woman in black that provided me with a strange prophecy. Let's go.
I have no idea what you mean, but in my family we do not speak unless our uncles give permission to us after their wives are uninformed. Please, stop talking.
All right. Garth and Tiny Mike continued on for several days. Every conversation they had was very confusing for Garth and always ended up with him scratching his brain. For this reason, Garth decided he would just smile at Tiny Mike and only speak when necessary. All right, now where should I go now? Maybe I will go to the nice parlor and ask the fat woman if she knows where she got her note that was on her toe. Tiny Mike agreed and they ran very fast to the parlor. Hoi, Garth again. But before Garth could make himself known, he gasped in frustration. The fat woman lay in a puddle of blood, dead.
Is that dead?
Look! Shouted Garth as he pointed to a blood-written message that read. They are dead.
Is she bleeding?
Oh no. Did I look like that when you looked at me?
Yes you did, Garth. It was you.
Oh no. This is not good. I have a feeling the woman in black killed my brother-in-laws. Killed this woman and also took Sardine. Perhaps she is out to get at me next. Shouted Garth as he tugged on the arms of Tiny Mike. Garth was much stronger than Mike and ended up tearing both arms out of their sockets. Garth quickly popped them back into place and apologized. After this ordeal, Garth called for a taxi and him and Tiny Mike made their way back to his honeymoon suite. He needed a good night's sleep and a cookie. Garth opened up the door to his honeymoon suite and gasped out loud. All the dead bodies were now gone.
No bodies here, Garth.
Well, I can see that now. They were just here. Did you see who took them? What do you mean, Tiny Mike? I do believe that if the dead bodies were here when you were last here, then there is now no longer bodies but rather they are now with the killer. Are you fucking kidding me? Garth was now more frustrated than he ever had been before. His wife was gone, he had no more clues and he still could not understand half the things that Tiny Mike said. What do I do now? Asked Garth to Tiny Mike.
Let us sleep on it and eat a snack and do our work tomorrow.
Okay if you say so. Now good night Tiny Mike. Garth closed his eyes and soon fell fast to sleep. Chapter 4, Garth's Cookie Fetish. Garth woke up to the sound of Tiny Mike blistering away in the kitchen. Tiny Mike was banging on pots and throwing cookbooks around the room. What are you doing? Asked Garth in awe.
I am trying to make cookies.
Oh really? You make cookies?
Yes, I make cookies.
Garth liked this idea a lot and decided to join in with the cookie making procedure. He removed all of his clothes because he did not want to get his nice pants dirty from the cookie dough. Garth and Tiny Mike giggled and splattered each other with flour for hours as they made cookies. However, something awfully dreadful happened when it was time to put the cookies in the oven. Garth had seen a tiny mouse at the back of the oven. Hand me the pan of cookies, said Garth. I will put them in and then get that mouse out. Garth put the cookies into the oven and reached for the mouse, but his arms weren't long enough for the mouse was at the very back. Give me a little push, said Garth to Tiny Mike. Tiny Mike pushed Garth and he tumbled into the oven. As this happened, a pot from the top shelf fell and bonked Tiny Mike on the head, knocking him unconscious. Tiny Mike fell into the oven door and it snapped close, shutting Garth inside with the cookies. Oh crap! Tiny Mike! Help me, Garth shouted, but it was for no hope. Garth, The cookies and the mouse were now locked in an oven that was starting to get very hot. I am a detective. I can get myself and the mouse out of here alive, thought Garth to himself. He thought for a good while and scratched his toes, however he could not come up with anything. He noticed the poor mouse was failing quickly. Half the mouse's torso was already cooked to a crisp. Garth felt bad for the mouse and fed it a bit of raw cookie as well as some of his own saliva. This seemed to help the mouse quite a lot. Garth decided he would get some sweat from his armpits to feed to the mouse. After shifting his body around to position himself in an earthly manner, he looked and saw that the mouse had disappeared through a vent. Garth swore in frustration. If only he was 4 inches in diameter, he too could slither his way through the vents. Minutes went by and Garth was starting to get very toasty. He could feel himself slowly being cooked alive. All hope was being lost. Garth's eyes started to quiver and he could tell his brain was beginning to power off. He was so ashamed of himself. His poor wife was probably being tortured in some ungodly basement at this very instant, and here he was, stuck in an oven slowly being cooked alive. Garth felt the life within him fading faster. His toes were now burnt and the heat was beginning to cook through to his heart. He was about to close his eyes for the very last time when he heard something. Squeak squeak. PSS PSS. Garth nearly jumped for joy. There, outside of the oven was a mouse. No, not just one mouse. Hundreds of mice clawing and nibbling at the oven door. The mouse that Garth had so bravely tried to save had gotten out of the oven through the vents and summoned his mouse family. The mice frantically worked away and eventually broke through the oven door. All 100 of the mice bit Garth around his toes and yanked him to safety. I do not know how I will ever repay you, said Garth, lying face to face with his new mouse friend. The mouse did not reply, but Garth knew it knew how grateful he was. With a tear in his eye, Garth watched as his mice heroes ran away. Although Garth knew he would not see his mice friends for a while, he knew it would not be the last time. Chapter 5, Case Solved. Garth woke up Tiny Mike and decided it was time he solved this case once and for all. He remembered one thing that was very crucial to solving this case. If in fact it was the woman dressed in black that had taken Sardine, then all he had to do was find her. I've been looking at this from the wrong way, said Garth. I've been looking for her, but what I really need to do is have her come looking for me. Garth quickly devised a great scheme to trap this mistress of death. He would contain Tiny Mike within the breast of his shirt and put on some beautiful lipstick in order to appear as feminine as possible. With his enlarged breast and his brown lipstick, he made his way out the door and into the street. He walked down the street in a very cute strut and heard Tiny Mike whispering from under his shirt. Where?
Right there, Garth, you idiot.
Sure enough, there she was, standing there giggling down the back alley. That fool, Garth never knew what hit him. The woman said to the 8 men that surrounded him. Garth approached with his large breasts swaying and his lipstick melting off. You there, woman? Garth cried. The woman began to run away, but Tiny Mike leapt from Garth's chest and pounced at her ankles, tripping her and making her elbows uncover her eyes. Sardine? What are you doing here? Garth cried. Oh, Garth. You fool. It was our honeymoon and all I wanted was to spend some intimate time with you, but you just never were able to stop hunting seashells and running away from me. Did you never love me? Excuse me? Woman, check yourself and get back in the house. Garth replied. She isn't going with you, she's my woman now and belongs in my shop. She will make an excellent assistant at Keith's Eggs Incorporated. Who are you? What is the meaning of this? Garth insisted. Dr. Keither. The man replied. I met your wife the day before last and fell in love with her immediately. She devised a scheme to have her brothers fake their deaths and for her to fake her disappearance. I'm sorry, Garth. You were never meant to know the truth. Just then, the 7 brothers of Sardine began pounding their fists and charged at Garth to kill him. As Garth cried in sorrow at having lost his wife, the brothers pounced on him and pulled his legs and arms and spat on his head. Out of nowhere came a tremendous crash and a thunderbolt. All the brothers were blasted into oblivion and blown into tiny pieces of something oozy. Garth opened his eyes and saw Tiny Mike standing alone, this an expression of controlled anger, and he spat on the earth. "Did you do that?" Garth asked.
Yes, I am mage after all.
Oh, I wasn't sure. The two men shook hands for a moment, but Garth instantly pulled his hand free and stared at it in embarrassment. He had never done such a strange thing before. They began to walk home to finish the honeymoon together, as friends. Thank you for joining me on this most beloved story in the development of Garth's character. Just remember, keep your friends close and your wives locked up tight. I'm Brian Longshanks, and you've been listening to The Garth Brown Mysteries.